Save for last.
Oh.
Just tired. There's sound, right? Okay, that's fine. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming to the March 3rd meeting. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Here.
Mrs. Sacks?
Here.
Mr. Cooney?
Here.
Mrs. Wise?
Here.
Mr. Rod?
Here.
Ms. Marshall?
Here.
Ms. Weiser?
Here. For everybody who's able, if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have the February 18th minutes. Are there any corrections or comments? Is there a motion to approve? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just sent something to Ms. Thomas.
Okay, Ms. Thomas, you have that?
Yeah, I have to go back and put some more stuff in.
Okay. Would you like to table it, or would you like us to approve it?
Okay, you can table
Unless,
it.
yeah, because people should read.
Okay, no, you can
It's
table
an
it.
omission.
Because it's that section she wants in there, so.
Okay.
Move
Great.
to table?
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, are there any additions or removals from the agenda? Okay, we're now up to comments from the audience. If you could, if there are any comments, if you could please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Solomon Heifetz.
Can you please speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry. Good evening, members of the council. My name is Solomon Heifetz. I'm a resident of 2524 Claver Road. And I'm here tonight to bring to your attention a significant nuisance issue that affects our block, one that I believe warrants some review. A few years back, John Carroll University constructed a batting cage facility directly behind our homes. This structure was built without any prior notice to the residents, and through a public records request, I discovered that there were no council discussions or hearings, seemingly from the information I received, only a standard permit approval. While we have always understood and accepted living near a university with sports activities, this new facility has drastically changed the noise levels and quality of life for our block. When the weather gets nice, and it's starting again, and that's why I'm here today, that each morning, afternoon, when the weather is nice, the repetitive clanking of metal bats striking balls fills our backyards, creating an overwhelming and persistent noise. To give you a sense of what we're experiencing, I'd like to just play a short little clip that I took a few days ago when the weather was a little bit nice. And this is what it sounds like in our backyard. I took a little bit of a decibel level test, and it seems to be reaching almost 100 decibels. And a clanking like this consistently, as if we're in a batting cages. No longer limited to occasional game days, it's now occurring almost daily. And to make what matters worse, it seems like there might have even been, and I don't know for sure, but some type of sound system installed around that area where they're doing their practice, and it's extremely loud with heavy bass. You can hear it bouncing inside of our homes, which seems to be a direct violation of City Ordinance 648.14, which would prohibit sound devices from disturbing the quiet and comfort of neighboring inhabitants and being played where it can be heard on neighboring properties. So our expectation as homeowners was to receive proper notification of major construction projects like this, to have our concerns considered. The lack of any noise mitigation, such as sound barriers, trees, limited usage hours, has made our backyards feel more like an extension of the batting facility rather than a peaceful residential space. So I'd like to request that council and the city review the permitted use of this facility, examine the nuisance issues it's creating for the residents, and take some action to enforce the city's noise ordinances. At the very least, we ask for sound mitigation measures to be implemented, whether through barriers, restricted hours, enforcement of existing noise ordinances, and the such. I appreciate your time and consideration, and I urge you to take action to restore peace and livability of our neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay. We are now up to reports and communications from the mayor.
Yes, the only thing I have to report out on this evening is the State of the City address will be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at John Carroll University in the Jardine Room at the Lombardo Student Center, and there will be popcorn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We're now up to reports and communications from City Council. I do not have a report. Do any other council members have? Okay, thank you. We are up to reports and communications from directors and departments. Director of Finance, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Good evening. Nothing really to report other than the auditors were in last week, so we spent the week accumulating different files and information they had requested. They seemed satisfied when they left, so I don't have anything else to report in that regard. The next team will come in to do what's called the gap conversion, where we have to convert our financial statements from a cash basis to an accrual basis. That'll take about 30 days, and then the field audit for the regular audit will send another team back probably sometime in May. So as of right now, everything's on schedule. We're just starting the process of closing February, so I don't really have too much information for you in that regard. And as I told you in the last couple of meetings, we were short in terms of the monies that we've received from the county for property tax advance. The final settlement is due mid-March, so I'm hoping that number is going to be significant to make up for the amounts that they have not sent to us in January and February. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any questions? Okay, Department of Law, Mr. Bryan.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I have no report this evening, but just want to let everyone know I will be out of town the week of the next council meeting, so Mr. Cicero will be here in my place for the meeting on March 18th.
Thank you so much. Public Safety, Chief of Police. Thank you. And Fire Chief?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a public safety message for tonight. March 9th is daylight savings time. We just want to remind everybody to check their smoke detectors. The U.S. Fire Administration states that nationally fires are up 10% right now. Those are mostly residential. Fire deaths, unfortunately, are also up 16%. So we recommend everyone checks not only their smoke detector batteries, but the detector themselves. Many of the new ones come in sealed units so that you can't replace the battery. So if you take the detector off the ceiling and look at the back of it, it will give you a date of manufacturer. 10 years is usually the end of life. It can be sooner than that. And then we're just to reiterate that the fire department does have its free home safety inspection program. Call the fire department, make an appointment. We'll send a firefighter out that's a state certified inspector. They'll go through a state inspection checklist and provide safety recommendations in the home. And then for doing that, we offer one free smoke detector for each floor of the house and one CO detector. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Weiser?
Chief, I just would like to thank your men. We had a little incident at my home, and the professionalism of the squad that turned out, I certainly do commend them. I also would like to thank the police. We had both the officer that was first in, understood what he was doing, was able to check before your squad was able to get there. And I also want to thank the sergeant for following up as well. Thank you both.
I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Service Department.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and members of council. Two things to report tonight. First of all, we have distributed the recycling carts that were from the second round of recycling. Currently, we have 2,519 carts delivered into households, with another 10 that came in over the weekend that will be delivered soon. At that number, we are at approximately 59.5% of households within the community participating in the recycling opt-in program. And now in addition to that, with the time change, as the chief had mentioned, we have our household hazardous waste collection and paper shredding event coming up this Friday and Saturday. Friday, March 7th from 8 to 3 at our service facility, and Saturday, March 8th from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. So for those that are looking to do their shredding or household hazardous waste disposal, we will have personnel on hand to take care of that.
Thank you so much. Ms. Weiser?
Mr. Pennington, I'm glad we're up to 59% on the recycling. One question, are we actively encouraging residents to put their carts out the night before?
We are not actively encouraging them to do that. We are telling them to have them out by 7 a.m. With that, residents do tend to put them out the night before.
Okay. We seem to be, and maybe it's something for housing, but we seem to have a large number of these carts that are remaining out well beyond the next day. In some areas where people are off on the route, I've noticed these carts go out and sit out for a week until they finally get picked up. I don't know how we can help to control that, but it can turn out to be a major problem. And I know one of the complaints that we get then, our garbage cans are out and carts are out as well. So I don't know if anything in the literature encourages people to bring their carts in as soon as possible. That
I believe
might be
as they
nice.
signed up for it, that they're supposed to have them back in that day. I believe is what the initial sign up indicated, and that was part of what they signed when they agreed to opt into the program.
Yeah, usually we forget what we agreed to.
Right, right.
I didn't see anything on the website. I don't know, maybe you can add something.
I'll have to
It
take a
would be
look.
nice just to help get the carts back in as well.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. The Building Department. Thank you. Housing and Community Development?
I have a question.
Yeah, Ms. Weiser?
Have we resolved the area for exterior inspections? Has the new letter gone out to that area? When do we anticipate it might go out? I know you had indicated there was confusion between a map up on the website and a map that the department actually had inside that caused some confusion for the first letter going out.
That's correct. And last week I had reported that I was getting an estimate from a printing company.
Okay,
And it should be in the next couple of weeks or so that those mailers go out.
okay. Are we holding off starting the inspections until the letters go out?
Yes.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
I just wanted to, I've had residents contact me to follow up to find out when they're getting that letter. So as soon as we can, then it'd be greatly appreciated.
Understood.
Otherwise, I have to have them call you.
They are. Thank you.
You're
Thank you, Ms.
welcome.
Davis. City engineer.
Good evening. I just wanted to let you know that I'm working on projects, and the street repair project, pavement marking, and the street evaluation project. I'm going to have those last two hopefully in front of you guys next council meeting. My company, Manick & Smith, they've instituted a new policy that everything has to go through like an internal review before I can bring it to you. So it's slowing it down a little bit on my end, but I haven't forgotten, and I'm trying to get it pushed through as fast as possible. Tomorrow, the mayor and Mr. Pennington and I, we have a meeting with Cleveland Water. We're going to talk about the lead line replacement program that CWD is implementing. So we're going to have some information, get some information, and also take a look at what streets are going to be planned out in the coming years. And on Thursday, I have a meeting with the county about the Warrensville Center Road resurfacing project. And we're just doing a little coordination about the bike lane and the hawk signals. So that's all I have tonight. Any questions?
Ms. Weiser?
I'm just full of questions tonight. The Warrensville Center project, has the county indicated if any of their funding for that may be affected by what's going on?
They haven't said, but it's something that I could bring up on Thursday when we have our meeting,
That would be nice to find out.
just to
I
make sure.
know there's
it's
so
locked
much up
in.
in the air right now on
Right.
anything that has a back funding out of the federal government, but
Well,
it's better to ask now so we can plan ahead.
will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mockbee. Communications and civic engagement.
Mr. Cook is excused this evening, and there is no report.
Economic development.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple announcements. The first one is Angie's Soul Food, which is located, Angie's Soul Cafe, which is located at 14480 Cedar Road, is now open. They opened at the end of last week. Secondly, the CVS that is located at Cedar Center South will be closing on March 13th. However, the CVS location at 14440 Cedar Road will remain open. And then finally, the Economic Development Committee will be meeting to review the zoning code, the comprehensive update. That meeting is scheduled for March 20th in this room from 6 to 8 p.m. And the purpose of this meeting is to gather the final recommendations that could be forwarded to the consultant, and then we would be waiting at that point for the draft and then starting the review of the draft to follow. But he needs the last of the recommendations from the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Drucker. Are there any questions?
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now up to the reading of the agenda. Letter A, motion to accept the bid from Elliott Sign Company as the lowest and best bid for the 2025 Phase 2 City Signage Project for signs at Purvis Park and Susan K. Infeld Gazebo in an amount not to exceed $72,648, and to enter into a contract with the same. Mayor, did you want to discuss this?
Simply that we do have a letter in the packet from Gina Gherkin of Guide Studio. We went through the process. We had two bidders. It should be noted that Elliott is not only the best and lowest bidder and the lowest bidder, but Elliott also did the other signs around the community, Welcome to the City signs. So Elliott's very familiar with the brand. They're very familiar with the materials and the design. And though anybody else could have replicated, the fact that our lowest bidder also happens to be the one that we have experience with is a positive, and I recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I was looking through the bid, and it mentioned that any electrical work was out of scope for what they were going to be doing. I was just wondering what the city's plan was to get electrical power out to that sign.
Mayor, do you have?
I don't
Sir?
know yet. We'll have to work that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So the only, I guess, issue would be is that that would be part of the project, and it should be put together with the initial bid.
But it's not part of their scope. That's something else we'll need to do.
So, Mr. Bryan, since the contract has to be through ordinance anyways, can we accept the bid and then on the next council agenda have an ordinance approving the contract and then approving the electrical work together?
If you want, I mean, it sounds like the electrical work will be done by a different vendor, so.
Correct.
I think we're okay approving
Okay.
that separately. But let me know if you want an ordinance.
I mean, the contract should be an ordinance anyways. That's what council has had for many years. All contracts should be in an ordinance form. But we can have a motion to accept the bid right now. I'm trying to figure out how
Yeah.
to get the project in one bundle.
I guess my only concern is if they start fabricating the sign and then we run into issues and we can't provide electric to that spot, we have a sign that's just not going to work. So I'm a little nervous about that. That was a very good catch, Mr. King.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Weiser? Yeah.
That strip of land, is it the city's, or are we leasing it, or what?
It's the city's,
So we own the land coming up to the sign?
I believe that's correct. Ms. Bachby, can you confirm that, or would you confirm that? I think you did a survey of this site at some point, yes?
Where,
Or does that,
where the sign is?
yes.
So going back to the pool?
Yes.
Okay, so we actually have an area that we could run an electrical line if we needed to?
Yes. Well,
Or would we
believe so.
have to run it from something else?
Right. I mean, there is a property line.
Well, I see Bill got up. It's like, can I pounce an ad?
Is it easier to just run it from the street? Pole?
Good evening, everyone. So yeah, aware of this project, however, the building department hasn't received an official application for a permit. And that would solve everything here. It would call for the electrical permit from an additional contractor and then make sure that we have the right setbacks and stuff to run the electricity.
Okay, but I just wanted to make sure we had the land to run a line if we had to run it from the pool.
So it sounds like the ownership is there.
Okay. So that part of it's not an issue. But I got a feeling it'll cost us a little bit to electrify the sign. So
Mr.
that
Rock?
might be a separate contract anyway. I don't know if it would hit the mayor's spending authority or potentially go over it.
What's the lead time on the sign fabrication and installation?
Well, we want to get this done before the pool opens.
Well, as part of the bid, did they provide a schedule?
I guess we can all look.
Not seeing one per se.
Well, I can tell you that working with Guide Studio, it has been everyone's goal that we have this sign in place and operating by the time Purvis Park opens for the swim season.
But is that in the contract? Will that be in the contract with this vendor that will be fabricated and installed by Memorial Weekend?
Well, that would be,
Because it's one thing to hope for it, but if it's not on paper, we don't have any teeth.
right, and I don't know that it will or won't be at this point. But that is certainly our goal.
Well, how about if we can have a motion to accept the bid, and then Mayor, can you get information about the electrical by next council meeting? Whether we need to bid it out, or maybe it's under your spending authority,
Who's applying for the permit?
but we'd have to,
Well, we don't know who's doing it yet. Well, we don't know who's doing it yet, so we don't know who's applying for it.
Well, I know, but if we accept the bid today, they have to apply for the permit, but that is not going to be the permit for the electrical. The electrical is going to have to be a whole separate bid, and they're going to have to coordinate with whoever is putting in the electric.
Ms. Sachs, do you have a question?
Thank you. I think we had some discussion about it being electric or not being electric, and since it's being presented to us electric, the whole thing needs to be presented to us. What's the whole cost to make sure that it can be done and it can be coordinated so the sign can be ready, but maybe the electric won't be ready, then it's still not ready in the time. So I would like to table this until we have a complete project bidding. I think Mr. King asked an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I don't see any type of time frame in this detailed packet.
I'm just wondering if Elliott Sign Company works with electric companies, and
Well, we
they
need
might
to know.
have, exactly, but they might have recommendations and then
We
can
need to know. Thank you.
work forward with them.
And
Mr.
it's
King?
dated December 3rd, so this is, it's already a couple of months, it's 3 months.
What is dated December 3rd?
Sign implementation, City of University Heights, Phase 2, design intent, CUH 1863, December 3rd, 2024.
The Elliott sign quote is from February 26th.
Okay, but the packet was sitting on a desk? I don't know.
I think that was when the bid went out.
The okay.
proposal is just February 25th.
Oh,
last
okay,
week.
thank you.
Mr. King, did you have a question?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would be in favor of moving this bid forward so that we can get that sign fabricated and then, have the, work with Elliott Sign to make sure we have the electrical specs, and then have the administration go seek bids for the electrical work. I don't see any reason for holding this up tonight, but I did think that electrical work was important enough and might take a little bit of extra, given it's out in the middle of nowhere. I wanted to make sure that was being taken care of as well. That was my goal in bringing this up, but I think we should move forward tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I typically want to see the whole picture. However, I think that the sign company will be working in conjunction with the electric company, no matter who we choose. Ms. Weiser, did you have a question?
Yeah, I would not want to hold up selecting the bid. The second question is, they need to be asked, is there an electric company they work with, or are there specs? But
Agreed.
we still should get a couple of bids, even if they want one, to make sure the price is not too high. Because this is an added cost to this project, and sneaking us up close to 80, it's going to cost us more than $6,000 to put in that line, I'm sure.
What's the budget for the signage?
I think it was 100, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I
For
think,
both
I think
or
it
for one?
was.
For the
We came in
entire
at
project.
72 on this.
Yeah,
I would, go ahead, Mayor.
I just want to remind the council that it is Guide Studio that is project managing this, not Elliott. If we select them, Elliott is fabricating the signs. So when it comes to the electric, we'll be working with Guide Studio about that piece of it.
I'm surprised that they didn't think of it then.
No, they did think of it. They didn't include it in the bid because Elliot's not an electrician. And neither is the other sign fabricator.
Vice
Mr.
Mayor?
Cooney?
Thank you. Yeah, so looking at the work, based on my experiences, looking at the work to manufacture the sign, it's probably going to take at least 4 to 8 weeks, at least. It would be great if the signs were available prior to the pool being open on Memorial Day, although I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't, or if it was installed shortly after, I'm sure residents would be able to find their way to the pool. But I do know that one of the other things we had discussed was in regards to the branding for the pool. Obviously, former Mayor Infeld, it was important to make sure the gazebo is recognized appropriately for her work. I would like to think between now and the next 8 weeks approximately, an electrician could be found that could coordinate with the design company in order to get the installation done appropriately.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cooney. I think Ms. Weiser had a good idea that if we can get not just one bid, but 3 bids for the electric company, just to stay, because it is such a large project. But I will make a motion to accept the bid from Elliott Sign Company. Is there a
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Do we need to put anything in it about the electricity?
Vice Mayor?
And
I
schedule.
I would counter that it's in the scope that the electric is not included. So we would have to perhaps look at that when the bid is submitted for acceptance.
We can put in an
Well,
amendment to
that's
the
what we're doing
motion.
tonight, is
Right.
accepting the bid.
If we accept it as is, it does not include electric.
Can we put an
Maybe I'm not
amendment?
understanding your question, I guess, Ms. Weiser.
Well, all I'm saying is, now we know Guide Studio is going to do it. We're accepting the bid from this company for Guide Studio to get the sign. Are we directly paying?
Are we getting the
Who's
electric or
doing
is Guide
what?
Studio?
Who's doing what is the question. The mayor said, oh, well, Guide Studio has the contract, so they would be doing the electric. So are these going to be 2 separate things, or are they going to be one thing? If we're accepting the bid for the signage, can it include a directive to Guide Studio to make sure that there are 2 bids for the electric and they be submitted to us within a month? So that we know before the sign's done, we've chosen who's doing the electric. Or do we need a separate motion for that? I don't know, Mr. Bryan, dig me out of the hole I dug.
You can do it either way. I guess my question is the I mean, it's not part of the bid of Elliott Sign. Is it part of the Guide project? Are they supposed to be taking care of the electric, or is the city supposed to be taking care of it?
I think we're asking you, Mayor.
I didn't hear the question.
I guess the question is Guide Studios, is that part of the scope of their engagement to handle the electric part of this, or is this something that we're supposed to do on our own?
I don't have that in front of me. I believe we're working with them on that, but I don't have the agreement to refer to this evening.
Sure.
But they are project managing this, so regardless of what it says, I'm going to be looking to them to work with us on this.
Right. So I think that this motion is to handle the sign part of it. They put this out for bid.
And then we can follow up in a couple of weeks on,
Right.
is there anything happening on the electric?
Right.
I'm sure the mayor will update us.
And can we include in our motion that this would be complete by Memorial Day weekend? If they can't accept that, then I would like to know, is this going to be 6 months? Is this going to be, I mean, they give no schedule. So if we're accepting a bid, I need to know what their schedule is. And if we could mandate that it be ready by the summer start.
And I guess what if the answer is no, they can't get it done?
That's, then does it come back? I mean, I need to know that.
I guess.
We have costs and we have schedule. Those are two
Right.
things that are always in a bid. So we have the one, we don't have the other.
So Ms. Sachs and then Mr. Cooney. Ms. Sachs?
Thank you. It's a beautiful sign. It's beautiful. It's going to enhance the park, and it matches everything with the city. I am concerned, there are a lot of assumptions for preparation and installation time, assumptions for the expense of the electric, which could be costly because it's kind of in a little island piece of land, and assumptions that they will be coordinated. We don't know. We don't know any of that. It's an incomplete project at this point. I need a little more information in order to support this completely, wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Mr. Cooney?
I understand your concern. By not approving the bid for at least the manufacture of the signs, we're just going to keep delaying it. We're going to put ourselves in a position.
Well, we're not delaying it. This was an
If we don't-
incomplete submission, so I have nothing
Right.
to work off
Okay,
of.
we've budgeted for the signs. We've been talking about it for over a year. I'm glad we're doing it. I'm happy we're doing it. Obviously, the electric is not included. We can get information on that. Whether we we need to get the electrical component, that has to be done. I agree with you, but that should not hold up if we move forward with approving the bid to have the signs manufactured. It's going to take at least 1 to 2 months at a minimum. In the meantime, we can answer those questions, Mayor, administration can answer the questions about the cost of the electrical to get installed. But it allows the manufacturing process of the signs to continue. If we were to table or not approve the bid at this time, we're just going to be delaying what we've already discussed and approved.
Yeah, I guess what I'm seeing here is a sense of urgency, which has become a repeated pattern. I wish, given that we want this open and ready by Memorial Weekend, we would have had this on the street much sooner. I can't control that, so I don't believe we're delaying anything by asking for more information. I think this is one project, but it sounds like I'm accepting bids from this person and that person. Just bring us the information. If you didn't bring it to us in a timely and complete manner, that's not my problem. I can't make a decision. So I understand we're up against the wire.
Right. There's no wire. There's no.
Well, it sounds like.
This is what I.
Well, then there's no.
Would I prefer for it to be done? Yes. If it's done the week after, I'm not.
Okay, so if we waited 2 weeks.
Like we've approved the funds for this. We've approved the design. We just need to move forward with the bid.
Mayor, would we have more information in 2 weeks then?
I think all you're doing is creating more delay.
No, I'm asking a question. Would you provide us the information that we're requesting in the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks?
I'll do what I can. I mean, we'd like to get this sign, installed and in place by the beginning of the pool season. We'd like to get it installed and in place, period. And 2 more weeks, I think it makes it much less likely that we're going to have it installed and in place. Ellet doesn't do electricity. We're here for one part of the bid, that part, the part where they make the sign. And this has turned into a bunch of other things besides that. If you want to kill another sign project in the city, John, be my guest. I mean, this is what you do. But I hope you don't, because, it's for everybody's benefit that we update the Purvis Park sign finally. We've had signs that let's go back to, 2019 when we designed signs that finally got installed, in 24, 3?
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Mayor.
mean,
Ms. Weiser?
I would like to see this approved tonight. I don't know what the problem is.
Thank you. All right, I think I can address a couple of things. Councilman Cooney is right. Everybody knows where the doggone pool is, they'll find the pool. We talked about this sign once before it went out to bid. We added in the gazebo. We've been through it. This is the bid to build the sign. as to Councilwoman Sachs's concern about the electric, I'm not worried about it, and here's why. We got electric to the pool. We verified that we own the land, a strip of land running from that pool to where this sign's going to be. So it's a matter of trenching and running a line. The cost of that is what we can ask about, but putting in the electric is not a big deal. We've got electric to the pool, and it's got enough juice to run this sign. That I'm very, very comfortable with. So I am not in any way willing to delay accepting the bid to get the sign started in terms of beginning to build it. But I do want, one, if the administration is willing, to confirm to us, at least in an email, I'm sure it's doable. A, is Guide actually, you say they're the project manager, would you please confirm that they are project managing the electric part? And request that they get us 2 bids minimum for that part of the job, so that we can have something come before us, so before the sign appears, we already know what we're going to pay for the electricity, and then we'll have a happy little sign because we'll have all our bids approved and they can put it together.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Ms. Sachs?
Thank you. I read that we're having LED lighting at the pool. Now, I'm not an electrician, and maybe our engineer or service director who's an engineer can speak to it. I don't know how that affects, any of this. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I don't even know that we have a contract for that, but that's a whole other matter. So again, I'd like to see for once the whole project, then piecemeal, especially what if it becomes the same amount of money as the sign? And then we're stuck with this big price. I don't know. I have no idea.
Thank you, Ms. Sachs. So we do have a motion and a second. Ms. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sachs?
Nay.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Nay.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor, I'll be looking forward the questions that Ms. Weiser said. I'm sure all of council is also. I think that's really important that we have for the next council meeting. A letter B.
Thank you, Mayor, for being willing to do that. I look forward to it.
Okay. Letter B is discussion regarding University Parkway, no parking signage. The safety committee meeting met before the council meeting. There was a robust discussion with some public comment about this issue. Before I give it over to Ms. Marshall, I did want to ask the mayor one question. As I was talking to Mr. Eckstein after the meeting, Dr. Eckstein, I'm sorry, after the meeting, he had a good idea of the administration and the residents and the synagogue could get together, try to figure this out, pause, actually not pause, but take off the no parking sign for 90 days until there's a resolution, because the safety committee has been trying to work through this anyways. Are you willing to do that?
Point of order. This part of the meeting should really be run by our pro tem, Mr. Rock, due to your conflict of interest, as I raised at the committee. May I have the floor and finish here, please? We have a conflict of interest because you work for Hebrew Academy. Louis Maltzmacher is the president of the board of Hebrew Academy. He's one of your biggest campaign donors over the years. And more to the point, I don't know, what the structure is within Hebrew Academy, but there is a conflict here with regard to your relationship with the Maltzmacher Shul and the interference you've run over the years in preventing our enforcing the fact that this shul exists for years on this street without a special use permit, and that you've interfered with the function of the law department to enforce the law with respect to the cease and desist that was issued in May of 21. I would ask that John Rock chair this portion of the meeting, that you recuse yourself from any further involvement
I would ask
here
Mr.
and
Bryan.
going forward.
Is it a conflict of interest, Mr. Bryan?
It's up to the vice mayor to determine herself whether she has a conflict of interest. I think she's explained herself that she doesn't have any affiliation with the property, and
So it is
she
not a
stated
conflict of
that,
interest. Does not meet the definition.
gentleman that the mayor was referring to doesn't have any authority over her job or compensation. So it's up to the vice mayor to make that determination for herself.
So I'm going to state for the record, I have no conflict. For the good of the council, I will recuse myself from this discussion and turn it over to Mr. Rock. But again, for the record, I have no conflict, and we will keep it at that. Mr. Rock?
Thank you, and I apologize, I was not at the safety meeting today. I had a work function right after work. So I was not part of that discussion, but I understand if someone from the council could bring me up to speed of what was discussed in the safety committee, so I can at least understand.
Yeah, I'm sure Councilwoman Marshall can. Dr. Epstein is here. So
Eckstein.
he also, I'm sorry, my apology. He also could perhaps explain what he was thinking as well.
You can't.
Go ahead.
But
No, you.
Mr. Rock, this is a just council discussion, and we've already had public comment.
I understand, I'm asking someone to bring me up to speed
I would
from the
defer-
safety committee, so I have a full understanding.
Right, thank you. I would defer to Councilperson Marshall. She is the committee chair.
Okay, so basically, we discussed the issue of the no parking signs. There were 3 signs placed. There were no parking, period, and they're permanent signs. And they're in front of, I think, 3 different houses. And the mayor was saying that it was complaints from residents, Dr. Eckstein in particular, and there was another resident, but I can't read my handwriting. But they were, their driveways were being blocked, and this has been going on for several years, and so he felt the need to address it by putting the signs up there to stop the parking there altogether, in a nutshell. He also mentioned Tina Byer and her, because she has come several times about University Parkway as well. And so I had concerns that the mayor put the signs up and authorize them to be put up. I don't see in the ordinance where he has the authority to do that, but the police chief does. And it says that in the ordinance 406.05, I think it is. And so there were several concerns, and we were given options that we could look at, perhaps permit parking as opposed to those signs, or council has the ability to override the chief's decision through legislation and perhaps having the signs removed.
Okay, so I'm hearing there's a couple different options here, but I also heard there were some ideas in which we could pause this for a minute, and what were those? Anything beyond what you just mentioned, or?
Well, we had
I'd be happy to.
suggestions, but go ahead, Ms.
Okay.
Weiser.
Yeah, the suggestion from
Doctor.
the doctor was to pause the enforcement of no parking for 90 days, allow the residents to work with the show, and see if they can come to an agreement about parking. That would create a temporary resolution. There are major issues in that area that appear to keep cropping up, and council's going to have to deal with it. I have one other question for the law director. It is my understanding with council agreement that if we did choose, we could have that individual say what he had proposed. Am I correct with council agreement?
Sure, council could do a motion to allow, to hear from the audience, yes.
I'm not saying to do that, I just wanted to clarify it for Councilman Cooney, that council can do that. So that's sort of where we were at. I thought the meeting was most interesting. I think parking is a major issue that council's going to have to really sit down and talk about at some point, because it's not just on University Parkway or on areas that Councilman Cooney is concerned about. There's parking issues all over this city, and that's a far bigger question than these signs sitting on University Parkway.
Is there any other comment? I would think we could open up to the audience, but I would like to hear from the council first. Mr. Mayor, you had your hand up.
I did. Yeah, I appreciate Dr. Eckstein and Dr. Eckstein's willingness to try to work with their neighbors, including, this shul. I want to remind the body that this shul operates without a permit, without a special use permit. They're not official. They're not legit on the street. I know that we've talked about, some of the John Carroll parking problems. One difference there is John Carroll is authorized to do business in this city. Zichron Asher Zelig Shul is not. They do not have a special use permit to operate a synagogue. Rather than talking about, whether we would take the parking on or off right there, we should be talking about when are they finally going to file for their special use permit, and do we finally just need to enforce our cease and desist and tell them they're not allowed to operate until such time as they seek and obtain a special use permit. That will solve the parking problem if they're not allowed to operate. But I wanted to do something a little bit less extreme. Why is it that everybody feels the need to interrupt the mayor?
Because you're off topic.
I am not off topic. This is exactly what we're talking. We're talking about the business that is creating the parking problem. It is absolutely on point. There is no way it's not on point.
Okay, Mr. Cooney, you had your hand up?
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing legal proceedings, personal and real estate matters.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
It would be, I would
There's a motion on
clarify
the
it
floor.
to be discussed, threatened.
There's a motion on the floor.
I would clarify that would be to discuss threatened litigation.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
There's threatened litigation?
Did you want to amend your motion to include
Threatening litigation.
threatening litigation? There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Going once, going twice.
I would remind council that this is a public discussion, and an executive session may be appropriate for the purpose of discussing legal proceedings, personal and real estate matters, and threatening litigation.
More discussion?
And we have to wait for a second, and if there is a
I'll
second, we'll
second.
open, there's a second on the floor.
And just, I would ask to clarify, it doesn't involve real estate matter, the purchase or sale of real estate. So it would be to discuss
Litigation.
threatened litigation.
So there was a motion by Mr. Cooney to enter executive session, seconded by Mr. King. Is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Sachs?
Not sure if this is what it is.
The
but-
We would be
Motion is to go
discussing
into-
the motion at this point.
So, well,
Executive
tell me if
session.
I'm off, not saying the right thing, but I find it encouraging that the doctors actually want to speak directly with their neighbors, the shul, so the people who are parking there. So I think that is a very positive thing and always a first step to de-escalate a situation. So I like that.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call roll on the motion to enter executive session.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Nay.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
Nay.
I thought you were recused from this.
This is executive session. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
This is everything. This is everything.
Point
Mr.
of,
Brian, is this everything?
Mr. Bryan?
It's related to the same topic of
So,
I withdraw my call.
well, then I have clarifying questions here, because I recused myself for discussion, which I, again, do not have a conflict regarding University Parkway no parking signage. I'm not recusing myself from any other discussion. If we're going into executive session, then I should have the right to be able to, then I'm not going to take back my recusal. This has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
You can do that, but I'm saying, if you're going to recuse yourself, this is on the same topic. So you should continue to recuse yourself. If you're not, you can change your mind. If you don't think you have to, then that's your right.
Vice Mayor, are you a nay then?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Rod?
I will say aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Do we need 5 to go in?
No.
No.
I'm going to abstain. They
So it
abstain.
appears the motion did not
votes.
pass.
No, and there are 4 votes.
Was there 4? I did pass. It was 4. All right, we will go into executive session and we will be out shortly.
Can you do me a favor? You don't mind? Yes, I don't mind. Thank you. I was gonna Google you on county website, but I might as well ask you in person.
No problem, Nate.
Thank you so much, sir. That's when council goes in there and they discuss for. I don't know what's going on. For threatening litigation. I'm not allowed to go in there because no note taking can be taken. So the was threatening litigation against the city? I guess.
It's all kind of.
We need a.
Okay, the time is 8:20 and we're about to exit executive session. We will need a motion to exit executive
So
session.
moved.
Motion by Ms. Weiser. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cooney. Will you please call roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
We are going to continue our discussion on this agenda item. It's the only one hand up at this point, so Mr. Mayor.
I would just like the record to reflect that Mrs. Weiss participated in the executive session. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Open up the floor to any council person to give any comment, feedback. Who would like to begin? Ms. Sacks?
I'll just repeat what I said before, that I think it is a step in the right direction for the residents to talk about this amongst themselves and try to come to some mutual understanding and a way to live together harmoniously. If elected officials can be helpful, we'd love to be. And we do have meetings and also one-on-one, to be able to talk through things. So I would like to go on the record as saying that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weiser?
I said at the safety meeting, and I'm going to say again, and I've been consistent, I don't think special permits are necessarily resolving issues. I don't think massive no parking areas are necessarily resolving issues. I think the administration has chosen to do this, perhaps a little bit out of political reasons, and that's to some degree on them. We have a lot of residents that have complained that those signs are in this area. I think there are good points as to why, especially, it baffles me that in a city where the administration portrays itself as wishing to increase the density of our city, embraces trimming the amount of areas that we have for parking, that we then would turn around and say also the streets, we won't park on the streets. I realize some of this is we want to get rid of cars, but quite bluntly, that's not quite fitting our particular society. We do have people that drive to see us. They need to have a place to park. In some cases, especially where people have 4 or 5 kids, they may have 4 or 5 cars and their driveways may be full. And to just go, no parking, is that productive? There are times when I think if we think like a politician, we lose our perspective that this is about residents and community. If all that we see is a maneuver, if all that we see is I gotcha about things that we didn't like and we have resentments for, but we play it out on our residents, we do them a huge disservice, and we do the community a huge disservice, and we walk away from the original reasons we came and we sat in these seats. We definitely are doing that with this. And we're smiling away about it. And I find it beneath every person in this room that holds an elected office. I think it is time for all of us to grow up and to say, let's focus on what is good for the residents and for the community. We've stopped talking to one another. More importantly, we stopped listening to one another. We listen to respond instead of listen to learn. And when we do that, we hurt ourselves and we hurt the people we're trying to serve. This is on the agenda as parking because residents complained. I got one complaint. I also got a concern from Mrs. Byer, who felt it was directed a bit towards her to get her neighbors angry at her because she has come here and asked for a parking ban, but only in a specific area of the street at a specific time of day, which would be limited. That's a more constructive way to do a parking ban. I don't know what council's going to decide, and I don't know what's going to happen with what we decide. The administration will do its thing. But I would hope among the 7 of us that whatever we do, we think first, what is in the best interest of the residents on that street? That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think I would like to hear from audience members if we limit discussion to 5 minutes apiece like we would in comments from the audience section. It appeared that nobody from the audience had spoken on this subject during that portion of the meeting. So I actually will make a motion to accept comments from the audience regarding this agenda item only, capped at 5 minutes per person.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Rock, second by Ms. Weiser. Any discussion on the motion? If not, will the clerk call roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
I'm recused for the, I'm sorry.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll put my timer on and we'll allow comments from the audience to discuss only this agenda item for 5 minutes. And if you could state your name and your address for the record.
Yeah. Mayor Ginsburg, I reside at 4339 University Parkway, which part of my property, or rather I should say my entire property, has now been affected by this ordinance, if I could call it that. I would say, first of all, that I've met the mayor in person recently. He was very helpful on a particular issue that I needed with my garbage cans, and we're working that through. And I definitely understand that there are some safety concerns as someone who does live there. Obviously, I'm Orthodox Jewish, and I happen to know all the players involved on a personal level. So I have many perspectives, is how I would say it. The reason why I'm here is because my wife very much wanted me to attend. Those of you who are married, I'm sure you understand. And our concern is primarily safety, as well as obviously our comfort, because when you have a long block like this and you take 3/4 of the block and make it a no parking, and that ends in the middle of my property, well, obviously anybody who needs to park on the block, they all end up parking and trying to squish and park in that one little area. Just case in point, my next door neighbor last night made an engagement party for their daughter, and it was a bit of a madhouse, is I guess the best way to describe it, because guests were trying to come and, you know, say Mazel Tov and all that kind of stuff, and there's no parking all of a sudden on this block. And that just, something just happened last night, but, you know, also it affects me personally as far as, you know, if I have guests, if I want to park on the street to clear up the drive for my girls to play chalk or anything, obviously, we understand the tug and pull, we experience it. I'm sure it was done with the best of intentions. That being said, I myself would feel a lot more comfortable if there had been a traffic study, different suggestions. Me and Dr. Eckstein, my neighbor, we were just discussing on the sidelines. I didn't live in Brooklyn. He's from Brooklyn, but I'm familiar with Brooklyn. There's different things over there. If you park even the tip of your car over that bus line, you'll end up in the city. Your car will end up in the city pound, literally. I don't think we have to be that extreme, but the point is that the concerns that neighbors have as far as, driveways being blocked and stuff like that could be addressed without a blanket no parking at any time. Things like, kids at bus corners, drop off, pick up, that's certain times of day that are valid concerns. They should be studied and addressed. I understand that perhaps, the safety board felt maybe it was urgent and they needed to, jump on it immediately. I understand that, but I understand sometimes when we jump into things, we take a step back, though we realize maybe there were some unintended consequences. And I'm just bringing that, up, and I'm saying, like, for myself, the rate of my driveway being blocked has certainly gone way up as opposed to, a month ago, just simply because now I'm the only spot on the whole block you can park. And obviously nobody intended to do that to me. The administration has always been good. We love the city. We're happy to be here. Kids play at Garrity. It's a great city to live in, but I'm just saying, with the best of intentions, I think if we take a step back, maybe take that 90-day thing, reevaluate and see how most effectively we could work this out, especially taking into account the people on the block, a little bit more, getting some input from them on what are our pain points as far as this. If the council has any questions, feel free to shoot them at me. If not, I'll just sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could state your name and the address for the record, please.
My name is Dr. Jeffrey Eckstein. My address is 4321 University Parkway. I want to thank Ms. and Mrs. Weiser, Ms. Kratz. I agree with both of you that we need to have a discussion. We need to have an open discussion. In fact, this was one of the key points that Dr. Malmacher and I always had, was that we were able to talk to one another. And we simply call him up when there's a problem. We've lost that. But I'd like to see that discussion occur with a 90-day suspension of the ordinance so we can get traffic data, so we can talk as a street community and figure out a solution. Every Friday and Saturday, there's no traffic, obviously for religious reasons, but it's 2 days of the week that something's done when there's no traffic. If that can be done, then we can find other days when we can accommodate all the people on the street to all our needs. No one wants to come home to their home and find your driveway parked or blocked or be verbally threatened. That's just not our community. So I agree with everyone who could talk. I appreciate what the mayor did, not quite in terms of the way it was done, but do it in a much more orderly fashion. We need to find a solution, but it can't be dragged on. It can't be after 90 days, we'll have another extension 90 days or another extension 90 days. We need to find an extension that works for both us. I guess there's issues with litigation, how we work to avoid, no one wants to go to court. We all want to find a very peaceful solution. Does anyone have any questions for me?
No. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? If not, I will close the comments from the audience section of this agenda item, and we'll resume our discussion amongst our panel here. Anybody from our council have anything else further to say?
I just wanted to make it clear for the record that this item for the no parking signs was put on the agenda because of the concern of the residents, it has nothing to do with the show whatsoever. It was put on here because of the concerns of the residents, the inconvenience of the residents, and the fact that the residents did not want this no parking sign put there. Or these no parking signs, because I know there were 3. So I just wanted to state that for the record, that it was put put on the agenda because of the concern for the residents and the concerns of the residents that live on University Parkway.
Thank you. Okay. There's no further discussion. We could close this agenda item, or there could be a motion for whatever anybody felt comfortable.
I don't want to make a formal motion, but I think I would ask, is it possible to cover those signs for 90 days and give the residents a chance to talk and then come back to us and maybe propose some coherent way to handle what's going on in that area? Now, that would take the cooperation of the administration. And I don't know if the mayor is willing to do that, but if he'd be willing even to give us 60 days, we're just, I don't know if the service director can cover the sign for 60 days. My hesitation is if we say, well, we're not going to enforce it, then if it does go into effect, it's going to be useless because everybody, that's the thing. But to buy us this at least 60 days and let the residents talk. That's their right. That's where they live. I don't live there. You don't live there. Give them a chance.
I think that's fair, Mayor. Would that be something you'd be amenable to?
I'm open to considering it. I'll be happy to speak with Dr. and Dr. Eckstein about that, and Mr. Ginsburg about that, and any other residents about that. I'm not going to make a commitment this evening. I'll take it under advisement.
Would you be so kind as to let the council know what is your decision? Because a lot of times, Mayor, you choose not to notify us about those things, and we would like to know what you decide.
I don't know what you mean.
I'm sure you do, but that's okay. We'll all do staging today.
So I believe we have a few options that the council can consider. So I think if we could get some feedback by the end of this week of what decision administration had made, it would be most helpful in our planning for our next steps. Potentially, we don't need those next steps. So I would think maybe by the end of the week, just let us know which direction we're going.
I can't tell you that I'll make a decision by the end of the week, but
Thank you so
I will
much.
be happy to speak with Dr. and Dr. Eckstein again, and Mr. Ginsburg, and I did not get any complaints other than what we heard from the lawyer on behalf of the one party. So happy to speak with anyone who pro or con this no parking zone and these signs.
All right, with that, I think we should. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to point out that I do recall the mayor stating that Dr. Eckstein was and his wife were one of the main reasons those signs were put up, that he made the decision to put those signs up. And since they're here expressing that that's not what they wanted, I'm just hoping that that's taken into consideration as well, because.
That's not exactly what they said, but.
Okay.
But I'm happy to speak with Dr. and Dr. Eckstein later.
John.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we did close the comments from the audience section, so I have to stick with that. I believe we've exhausted all council comments at this point. I think we have a good roadmap to at least get us through this week. And then again, we have options on the table if that's not the case. So I will close this agenda item and hand it back over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rath. We're now at Agenda Item C, Ordinance 2025-02, amending Chapter 1493 of the Codified Ordinances relating to apartment building registration permits and inspections. This is on second reading. Ms. Weiser?
This was held up from the last council meeting because we found there had been a ruling that had occurred that affected a small portion of the ordinance. Mr. Bryan has been working on that, and the ordinance that's in the packet does have that revision. I'll turn it over to him to explain the little change we had to make, and then we can go forward on voting on this. This has been through building and housing. This is for a while. We did a lot of work on this over the past, I would say, 4 months. So to get it to the finish line is a wonderful thing. Mr. Bryan?
Thanks, Ms. Weiser. Yeah, the only substantial change from when it was presented at committee and from the first reading that this legislation had at the next council meeting, subsection 1493.01D, where that provision requires all registration and permit fees that are paid in connection with this ordinance be spent on administering the ordinance. So they would go for the purpose of deferring the city's personnel and equipment costs related to the registration, permitting, inspection, and certification of the apartment buildings in the city. So the money would go into a designated cost center line item and used for the sole purpose. The housing department would keep track of its time and equipment costs directly related to enforcing this ordinance, and the general fund could be reimbursed for those costs from this cost center money. At the end of the year, we will track those costs, and if we have excess funds, then it requires us to look at the fee amounts for the next year to make sure they're not in excess of what's needed to administer the ordinance. I suspect that those costs will exceed what the permit fees are. We'll see that, and so that's the change to make sure we comply with that recent court decision from Southern Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Bryan or Ms. Weiser?
I have some questions. I'd like to know from the sponsor or from members of the committee, what was the process for considering the equities of how with our single family and two family homes, we have inspection fees of $150 and $200, and that with the proposed fee structure, we're talking $350 for up to 49 units. That's just a little over $7 an apartment. That doesn't seem fair to other landlords. Also doesn't seem fair that other landlords are having inspections done twice every 2 years, every other year, and that we're only going to be doing inspections on particular apartments and multi-unit buildings once every 3 years. It doesn't seem equitable. It doesn't seem fair, but perhaps it is fair in a way that I have not yet appreciated. So I'd like to hear from the committee a justification as to the difference, as to why it is that we are charging so much less to commercial landlords in multi-unit buildings and not inspecting their apartments as often. Thank you.
Sure. You want me to address that?
Sure.
We will need to bring the single and two-family inspection requirement legislation back. That was in committee. I was kind of holding off to see in what form council wanted to pass this ordinance to add the same language. We'll have the same requirements for those ordinances as far as dedicating those fees, toward the cost center and these costs of administering the ordinance. The court case applies to those situations also. As to whether council wants to make those inspections every 3 years, like the apartment, that's something we can discuss when the ordinance comes back or not. I think if you remember originally, the way Mr. Cicero prepared the ordinance when it was passed in, I believe, 2023. There weren't any permit fees issued. He modeled it off the Mayfield Heights ordinance that didn't charge any fees for inspections. A lot of communities are doing that, going away from doing interior inspections, going away from charging any fees. I think there's, regardless of whether it's a single-family home or an apartment, there's a minimum cost as to reviewing, processing, an application, issuing permits and certificates, and doing inspections. So I think with it, as far as the $150 cost for the single two-family properties, I think that's appropriate. And, I would recommend, at least at this point, a conservative approach to any fees for apartments till we find out what's happening with these situations and litigation in the future on these subjects.
Mr. Bryan, we have in our code housing and we have commercial, am I correct?
There's
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about in general. We separate out commercial entities and we look at size of commercial entities as well, am I correct?
For apartments, yes. Is that what you're-
Well, even for houses.
Yes.
A house rental comprises something totally different than an apartment.
They're separate ordinances, yes.
Yeah, they're handled separately. And I think what's happening is I'm hearing the mayor equate renting a house to renting an apartment. And I don't know if we can do that. I think the idea about this ordinance was to actually begin to charge something. If I remember correctly, that's why it got introduced, because we had a class that wasn't paying for anything. I mean, they were operating as commercial businesses and we weren't doing much. So this is a first step. I am sure, as we do with many things that we start out with, we don't end up in the same place over time. We don't end up in the same place over time because there are rulings from other courts that then drift down to us like what happened with this ordinance. And there are limits to what we can do. We had, in discussion, looked at, do we inspect every apartment every year? And as we actually finally got the information from housing, which took a few months, about the number of units in each building, we discovered within the city of University Heights, we have a wide range. Because of that, we felt it was unfair to charge someone with a building that had a high number of units the same amount as someone who only had 4 units in their building. There was an inequity across those buildings if we tried to charge one flat rate. So we looked at the ranges and we decided to start out, we could start out here and then review this as we go along. I don't think we're done discovering other things that we may have to do once we have a coherent inspection cycle going for individual apartments. We may come back and say, we're charging too much, or we are charging too little for the registration fee. But we don't have the data yet. I think where the committee came down because the committee talked about it quite thoroughly, really tried to think through what we could or could not do. And we decided on a group of things that took into account that each apartment building is not ubiquitous. I mean, we actually talked about the fact that when we get University Square actually becomes Bell Tower, we're going to get 200 odd units, and they'd be paying the same as one with less units than that. So, but those apartments aren't built yet, so we didn't really factor that in yet. What we did, though, with a lot of this was to find a way that if we have an issue within those buildings, the city actually has more legal standing to resolve that issue, to provide some impetus for an administration to get it resolved. And to me, that is a first step. The law is never perfect. That's why the law changes. You should know that. You're a lawyer. So I think we did a reasonably good job in starting out and taking our time to really try to consider all of this as the information we were given finally came in. We were exceptionally pleased that Ms. Davis worked with us exceptionally well. We kept asking questions, and I'm sure we drove her crazy sometimes, but she went back and she got answers, and because of that, we developed something which is really good to start. And quite frankly, I acknowledge we may have to do revisions on it, but we're not going to have to do any revisions if we get started with it. That's when we're going to find what we need to do. We're already starting to inspect apartments. And what is found in those inspections will tell us a lot. One of the other things is, unless we really want to add lots of employees at a tight budget, which doesn't work, we also had to look at how could we judiciously use the amount of time that we have for staffing in that department. And we decided doing a third, and a third. In 3 years, we inspect every apartment in there. And on a 3-year cycle, we should be able to maintain, catch problems, and not overburden the department that ends up having to actually enforce this ordinance. So I'm comfortable with it. Obviously, you wish to make a issue about it, but that's okay. We've given the administration something to begin with, and then we hope it gets enforced. Because sometimes things don't get enforced.
Vice Mayor?
Sure, Mr. Cooney?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Weiser. I would agree that for 1493, we are improving what was there. I agree that we are not, it's not set in stone. I'm anticipating that we will look at it again. There will be another revision. Obviously, Bell Tower is going to be driving that, and that was part of the discussion within Building and Housing. I've recently met with Ms. Davis within the past 2 weeks, and those discussions, quite frankly, were very informative, and I really appreciate your time that she took. And your question in regards to the registration, the inspections was something that she had actually brought up. And the what she views as what the housing can do and is productive and effective is I'm going to anticipate we're going to make some changes to that for what she needs to do in order to keep on top of those U1 and U2 registrations. So between the 1493 and the registrations and inspections, I'm anticipating potentially some discussions with possible changes based on the recommendations from Ms. Davis. And I'm looking forward to seeing those on the agenda. And for the building and housing, and hopefully, I'll just throw it out there, before the end of 2025, there may be another revision between those ordinances for consideration by council.
Thank you, Mr. Coney. Are there any other comments? Mayor?
Yes, I appreciate the explanation. I would point out that when the University Square apartments go online, that's an estimated 206 apartments. The fee is going to be $500. The inspections end up being $2.43 a unit. You know, the fees that we charge don't have to cover the full cost, and they can't exceed the cost of what it costs to do the service associated with the fee. I know that, and we all know that. I don't think that's anything anybody up here doesn't know. But I think we can all be reasonably confident that it costs more than $2.43 to the city to inspect an apartment. So, you know, it comes down to who's then actually paying for it. And if that means the commercial landlord making a profit is not paying for it, it means that it's coming from public resources, means our other residents and businesses are paying for it. And though I appreciate and respect the idea that these numbers can be adjusted over time, we got to start somewhere. I don't think the first ordinance should have been passed without any fees, but nevertheless it happened. I think that these numbers are too low. But, you know, you went through the process. This is what you came back with. So thank you for the explanation.
Vice Mayor?
Ms. Weiser, then Mr. Coney.
Thank you. Two things. Mr. Cooney, when you finally get us that email, I would appreciate it. The email you said you would send with a summary of your conversations with Ms. Davis to council, like before. Yes, thank you. And number two, I would point out, Mayor, you were present when we discussed these ordinances. And at that time, you could have brought all of this up. You chose not to. So we did the best we could with the information that we got. One of the challenges has remained when we ask questions, sometimes we do not get full information, and that makes it difficult for what we do. I appreciate that we all can't be perfect and we all can't give total information, because sometimes we don't even know it until we start asking questions. I would make a motion to pass ordinance.
Yeah, Ms. Weiser, before you make that motion, just a housekeeping recommendation. Even though this is on second reading, we did make a significant amendment, so I would just recommend to be overly in the goal of being overly cautious that we suspend the reading rule first and then.
Okay, I make a motion to suspend the, what am I suspending? We weren't passing this on emergency, were we?
Second reading.
No, but it's on second reading, but just suspend the reading rule so we're not counting.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. I make a motion to suspend the full reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye. Now I make a motion that we will accept or adopt ordinance 2025-02, amending chapter 1493 of the codified ordinances relating to apartment building registration permits and inspections.
So moved.
Is there any comments? Mr. Cooney, did you have a question or comment before?
No, I'm just trying to keep my chin up.
Oh, okay. All right, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda letter D, motion to approve the purchase of a used 2013 Mack 613 LEU rear packer rubbish truck from Fab Techs located in St. James, New York, an amount not to exceed $61,900 and waiving the competitive bid requirements. Mr. Pennington.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of council. As you all know from the February 3rd council meeting, truck 21-2 that we had suffered an electrical fire and is determined a total loss. The insurance settlement on that truck came in at $58,533.09. Although we do have a truck budgeted for later this year to buy a new truck, the lead time on that truck will be significant and will not lend to allowing us to continue with the brush collection and the spring cleanup and other things we typically would do with the truck that burned up. That being said, we have went back to Fab Techs, who we've previously purchased some New York trucks, and they did have a 2023 Mack truck with only 27,704 miles on and very low hour usage available.
Mr. Pennington, is it 23 or 13?
I'm sorry, 13.
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize.
It would be nice if it was 2020.
It would be, yes. Anyway, the truck is available, and they are currently willing to hold it for us to allow us to get through this ordinance tonight, or motion tonight, in order for us to acquire said truck. The price of that truck with shipping is $61,900, which the insurance settlement will cover a majority of. With that being said, I would ask that council approve the motion for the purchase of this truck.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yeah, Ms. Weiser?
How much are we getting back from the insurance on the old one?
$58,533.09.
So we're basically gonna.
It's just almost a wash.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. Thank you. I felt that needed to be read into the record.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Weiser and second by Mr. King.
No,
Mrs.
it's
that
Miss
was me.
Marshall.
Oh, Ms. Weiser. Ms. Marshall.
The
Ms.
other
Marshall,
Miss
sorry.
Weiser, the other Miss Weiser.
Ms. Sacks.
Hi, I apologize for having to excuse myself. Was there anything different than what was in the packet?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Pennington.
Thank you.
Okay, letter E, ordinance 2025-05, amending the non-bargaining unit position salary and pay range ordinance to increase the not-to-exceed hourly pay ranges for the seasonal part-time pool staff positions and declaring an emergency on first reading. Mayor, did you want to discuss this?
Sure, I'll take this. Last week, Mr. Pennington and I met with our pool managers, Christine and Frank. I think there were some others in the room, but it came to our attention the shortage of lifeguards that are returning, especially male lifeguards, which is important. We need to have adequate numbers of lifeguards that are male and female for the single-sex swim nights because of the staffing considerations that go along with that. It was brought to our attention that neighboring communities like Beechwood, like South Euclid, are starting their lifeguards at $17 an hour, and we are at around 13 and change, which makes it hard to compete. We're in a position where we need to make sure we have a full complement of lifeguards if we want to maintain the number of hours that we do, maintain the programming that we do, And I know there's some desire to expand some of those things. Before we can even look at expanding, we got to look at fulfilling what we have. And, you know, in anticipation of a staff shortage and wanting to avoid it, and as people are hiring lifeguards now, is my desire to avoid a staffing shortage, avoid a staffing problem, and be competitive in the marketplace for hiring lifeguards so that we can continue the fine programming that we have at Purvis. So this ordinance would amend the top of the salary range for personnel at the pool. It would be my intention that we would also offer the 17 an hour starting that Beechwood does, so that we have a fighting chance of having the lifeguards that we need to get through the pool season the way the community expects. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Ms. Weiser?
Mr. Kennedy, do we have money in that budget to cover the increase?
I do, depending on what the final hourly rate is, we would probably have to amend the budget to increase the salary lines for those.
Okay. Is it, do we have a sense of how much that would change it? I'm just curious, that's all. I'm not against it, I'm curious, though.
No, it's a good question. I don't know that we have that calculated yet, though.
I do not have that worked out yet.
This is only on first reading. Could you, get that for us? I'd appreciate it.
It's on emergency.
Thank you. It's on first reading.
that.
It's on emergency?
It's declaring an emergency.
But it also says on first reading, but I would
Right.
urge that we, you know, get this done sooner rather than later.
So I confirm, I just asked Mr. Bryan.
Yeah,
It should
it
be
is
on
what I have.
emergency.
Well, yeah, again, I guess there's two different things. The readings, we require 2 readings. You can suspend the 2 reading rule and act on something in the first meeting, pass it by a 2/3 majority. The emergency clause is something that's totally separate. That means it's effective upon passage rather than 30 days. So those are, you can treat them together, you can treat them separately. So.
Okay. Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm not sure whether it's a rendering issue or what, but the amended portion of salary and pay range ordinance on page 38 of our packet, I don't think it's complete. It has pool shift manager not to exceed, crosses out $18, lists $23, and then every item below just has 2 quotes.
That's how it was. That's how it's currently in the ordinance.
Okay.
There's a not to exceed amount for all those positions. So that's just.
Not for everything, so
Yes.
it's like ditto marks.
Right,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay, so it's just,
Yeah, I didn't have the full
so-
salary exhibit in a form. I could get it done in a quick fashion. So
okay,
I think what I would ask that, if this is passed, in whatever form, we send it to the Clemens Nelson and just have them convert the exhibit to,
yeah,
with the full list of non-union salaries and just.
yeah, I was just curious because we were talking about numbers like $17 and anyway, okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I don't think it actually says 17 anywhere. It
doesn't.
says the top. Well,
Yeah.
it should say the
It
top
said not
of
to
the
exceed
scale
18 and
because,
then I guess
Right.
it's
Yeah,
listing all the
It's the exact
positions.
wording, right, it's in
Okay.
the current ordinance.
Thank
Just
you.
the numbers have changed.
yeah,
Thank you,
and
Mr.
it
King.
currently is.
Are there any other
18.
questions?
Do we have any sense of what this is going to do budget-wise?
Well,
Are we trying to pass this tonight? Let me start there.
so what, does anybody, I guess, Mayor, do you know what the average amount of hours per summer for one lifeguard is? Because there's a $4 difference right now for a starting
Maybe Mr.
lifeguard.
Cooney has that tucked away.
Yeah, I mean,
I have that, and
I
it was
knew
going to be
you would,
available for the
Chris.
meeting tomorrow, because I've provided, it will be a 5-year history, as I keep building on it from previous years. So I'm sure all of you have saved my information I gave to you last year, so, but as a courtesy, I will bring it up.
Thank you, Chris.
Bear with me one moment, okay. Mr. Kennedy may be able to verify this, I'm getting this from the budget numbers. The part-time seasonal wages for 2025 was $215,600. Overtime is budgeted for $7,000. Just as comparison, the part-time actual for 2024 was almost $205,000, and for 2023 was $175,000 approximately. We had a couple of things that happened going into 23. I believe it was, I don't think the summer was quite as strong, and also Christina and Aaronette actually started putting more focus on the hours for what, making sure that the pool was staffed appropriately. So between 21 and 22 and 25, the numbers have remained relatively steady. Obviously, it gets impacted. Is it a hot summer or is it a little bit cooler and rainy? Going back to 2019, I rolled that off, but it was our approximate revenue to expenses in previous years. We did peak at 2022, which was at 39%, the revenues versus the expenses. 2024, it actually got down to 31.59%, and I'm predicting it's going to be 32.12% currently. That's going to change. So I'm not even going to estimate what the impact would be to the budget, but we do have a rec meeting tomorrow. We can discuss this. What's coming out right now, what I'm hearing, especially for my kids and for others that are looking for jobs, they're just hearing the numbers right now. So this isn't like the cities and other businesses are not posting their hiring wages like 6 months ago. This is something that's coming out now. What's going to happen now is everybody's going to be going after like who's available. So I would recommend that as we are being competitive, what the mayor's proposing is basically being competitive with other cities, especially in our immediate vicinity. So it's not as if we're going to be poaching from other cities, but the concern is if we are not competitive, they'll be poaching from ours. So that's my 2 cents on everything, so.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree with that. I did really quick numbers for extra dollars times a part-time, 20 hours times a week times 12 weeks. It's about $5,000. So that's a part-time person, and
That's one person.
that's one person. So
That's going to run us about 5 per person.
about for a part-time person. But I agree, we have to be competitive or we're not going to be able to get
Yeah.
anything. And this can also lead into what do we charge for
That's right.
passes.
That's right.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but also at the same time, you have to keep in mind, like for lifeguards, like there is a skill, there are certifications that are required.
Yeah.
And you don't get those overnight. So if we have somebody that is available, that is interested, and is going to be a good fit for the city, and Christine feels, and Mr. Pines feel comfortable with that, I would make sure that we try to give them the resources in order to do so. Without being able to staff the pool at capacity at a competitive wage with certified personnel, there's obviously some concerns as to how does it impact the hours of operation, so.
I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Weiser.
Warming is happening. The warmer it gets, the more people want to use the pool. The more people want to use the pool, the more lifeguards we need. Councilman Cooney, I totally agree with you. I just think we always need to be realistic about the hit to the budget. And if we're talking, if we can be competitive at 17 and match our friends at Beechwood and have less of a hit, I would hope we would do that, because if we can keep it under control, then you know how things happen.
Yeah.
So,
I would, yeah, I would.
I mean,
I'm
I
sorry.
can see this going up, what, about 50,000 for the summer? I'm just doing a ballpark.
Yeah.
70 or?
So
I think more,
we
but-
can handle
Yeah, I think
that.
more like 70.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? I do feel that other cities are posting their jobs at this point, and
They are.
we should make this an emergency, so I will make a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Marshall. Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Is there a motion on the main motion for passage
So moved,
On emergency.
on emergency?
so moved on emergency.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Rock. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you. So I was made aware by Ms. Marshall that there were minutes for F and G that seems to be that it should that these two should come back to committee. There were updates. There's actually in the minutes, it specifically says that these two ordinances should come back to committee when they're updated. So I would like to make a motion to table F, and then I'll make a separate motion to table G if everybody's amenable to that,
And refer to safety?
and refer to the safety committee.
I'll second.
So this is for letter F. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
And I will also make a motion to table letter G and refer it to the safety committee. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you. Letter H, discussion regarding the Safeville contract. Ms. Weiser?
We had, the council, okay, the Building and Housing Committee had requested back in 2023 a combined contract because we had, our Safeville contract was a contract and a bunch of amendments. And we got through that, we started looking at it, and then other things seemed to jump in front. And in going back through some things, I discovered the Safeville contract is up for renewal at the end of March. And we hadn't heard from the administration, so I did reach out and I requested a copy of the contract. And what I would like to request is that we refer it to the Building and Housing Committee for review and discussion so that, and consider this on first reading, so that if it comes back at that council meeting, we could get it approved potentially before the end of the month when it's due. And this way, we will actually be able to look at the contract again instead of suddenly being handed something and told we have to approve it without us being able to have committee discussion about it. So that's this. I do need to say this. I know, I saw the mayor get ready. So I do know he's about to haul out his statement about you have not approved the community development coordinator, a position. You've had it sitting in your committee for 5 months. Yes, we have, and we started discussing it. And we did request from the administration, and Mr. Cooney now has a better idea of what's going on. The definition, their definition of housing and community development, so we have clarity on that when we actually move forward on it. And we will move forward on that. This, however, because it is something that will, that needs to get approved if it's going to expire at the end of the month, We need to get it looked at. This gives all of us time to read it. 2 weeks, because of course, Building and Housing will meet before the next council meeting. We have other things too on the Building and Housing committee that we need to get to as well. But this sort of takes preference right now. I think, we had a pretty wholesome discussion about the staffing in Building and Housing. And once again, we learned lots of things we didn't know at the last meeting. So although it has been slow, I think it has been appropriate, because these are things we're not told before we're handed things for approval. And sometimes that leads to much better decisions on all areas. And sometimes it ends up with council thoroughly embracing the vision of the administration when they can truly articulate what they want. So although I'm sure the mayor will take his time to beat up on me, I appreciate that he needs to do that, and it's okay. But I do think it's important for us to take a look at this contract and discuss it in 2 weeks, and then see if we can get it back to council.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Are there any other questions or comments?
Sure.
Mayor?
The draft agreement that you've circulated is not what the administration wants. It's what Safe Built wants. And there are things that the administration wants and would like to negotiate with Safe Built, but they're dependent upon other staffing issues that the administration's waiting on. So we don't have a lot of time, because I've been waiting, it's not 5 months now, it's 6 months, for a salary band to be approved on a position that already exists on the books that is integral to how we redo the Housing and Community Development Department. And once I had a yay or nay on that, I was going to be in a position to make some other proposed changes to Safe Built. I would like to have done that this past fall, well before the March deadline. But I've been waiting on this committee to do the work. And now we're going to rush through a contract process with a draft that the administration has not approved and did not advance and did not ask for. And, to try to hit the deadline at the end of March. And it doesn't sound like we're going to get anywhere on the position. So council's going to council. I guess we'll see what comes out of the committee. Thank you.
So one thing I just want to say before I call on Ms. Weiser, this is the first time I ever heard that one thing is dependent on the other. You've been in all of the meetings, you never mentioned that. Ms. Weiser?
Oh, could I please address that?
Ms.
It has
Weiser.
not,
Ms.
it has never,
Weiser has the
it
floor.
has,
Had not had the
Ms.
courtesy of
Weiser
open
has
discussion
the floor.
until 2 weeks
Ms.
ago. We got
Weiser
18
has
minutes where
the
I was
floor.
lectured
Floor, but
about
that's okay.
all the excuses for why you didn't do your job.
see, I knew you were going to do that.
There
Here
it
you
is.
go. Go, 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 go.
Yes,
Yeah,
there it
go, go,
is.
go, go.
Okay.
There it
Done?
is.
Are you done?
Yes, because you
Oh,
got
Weiss-
done saying that because I was at a committee meeting and didn't bring something up, when I didn't get an opportunity to do so.
yes.
And
you
now
did.
I'm not being deprived of an opportunity to bring something up, and if I don't bring it up, it's going to be, oh, Mayor, you didn't say anything. Well, if I don't get the floor, I can't.
I'm waiting for him to be done.
Okay, Ms. Weiser.
Okay. Number one, I am not that powerful. Number two, that is the truth. I am not that powerful, Mayor. Number two, that job description has never been linked to the Safe Built contract. But number three, here's one thing I do know. In well over a year on council, the vast number of complaints that we receive have to do with building and housing. They have to do, when we go and ask questions, with confusion, with a procedure that someone didn't follow in that department, that someone is not available when someone walks in with prints, that someone calls and gets hung up on, that someone calls, leaves messages and doesn't get a call back. And yet, we have people that are staffed in that department. Isn't it interesting that as we have discussed all of this with Ms. Davis, we actually are getting really good answers? Because when we asked Mr. Engelbrecht back last year, did he need anybody? He said no. He said his department ran fine. Okay? So now suddenly we absolutely have to have this position, because if we don't have this position, the entire department can't function. And now we want to add more to Safe Built. But maybe council doesn't want to add more to Safe Built. You could have, at any time, better articulated what that position, the position that you would like to add 60K to, about, what it is supposed to do. And then we can sit there and discuss how the ad that was prepared for it doesn't cover that. And then we can discuss a few other things too. So we may have a legitimate look at that position, not to eliminate it, but to actually make it more functional than it is. That's one thing. But we do have a contract with Safe Built for building. That's their side of the house. That's the way you set this up. We actually, our committee, thought to take all of those various little contracts and finally get them contained into one, so the city actually knew what the heck Safe Built should do. That's, to some degree, that's not our job, but we did it. That may upset you, I'm sorry, but I'm not that powerful. I'm looking at this from purely a management type position and how something actually works. We don't get a lot of answers on that, but I've been very grateful. I've also been very grateful that Councilman Cooney gave a chunk of his time to go and sit with Ms. Davis so we would better understand what's going on in the department. Because all we get from you is, I need another person. I need another person. Every time we add a person, we add to the budget. And we need to think about that. The city's not made of money.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. And this is just for discussion, or is there any other discussion?
Yes.
Mayor?
I want to be very clear to everyone here and for the record that when I'm being told that I haven't told the committee about the substance of our request, on October 7th of 2024, at that council meeting, we asked that a salary band be implemented for a particular position, the building and, the housing and community development coordinator, which exists on the books as the community development coordinator, but just wasn't part of the last salary ordinance. It appeared on the October Building and Housing Committee agenda, but was not taken up. So there was no opportunity for me to state at the committee in October that anything of substance regarding why the administration had made this request. The Building and Housing Committee did not meet in November of 2024, except in a joint committee with the Service and Utilities Committee, where it took up other business. And when we did not get to this in October, the chair, Council Member Weiser, announced that it wouldn't be heard in November. It then was on the agenda for December, but again, there was other business in front of it. So in December, we never got to that agenda item. So again, I was not afforded an opportunity to explain why we needed this position. Then there was a Building and Housing Committee meeting in January where once again, it was not brought up. And I asked this council to withdraw the referral from the Building and Housing Committee of this item because it was important. And we hadn't had the courtesy of any open debate on why we asked for this position. And not one of you would make that motion to either add it to the agenda for that evening or to add it to the agenda for the next committee of the whole. We had, there are other times when the council, if they have something that's important to them, we'll add something to an agenda, like over 3 parking signs, for instance. But on something like this, where apparently there are copious complaints about how the department operates, we did not have the opportunity to explain anything about our request until the Building and Housing Committee meeting of February, when in the remaining 18 minutes of that committee meeting, we finally got to that agenda item. And for the first time, we could begin to discuss why we needed this position. Most of that time was spent arguing over why it had taken so long to get to this point and making excuses as to whose fault that was. So we still haven't had a truly substantive discussion. It's been 6 months. Meanwhile, the department has to run. Meanwhile, I had to go ahead and actually make a hiring decision for the director of the department. There are personnel matters in relation to this discussion that ought not be had on the record, that ought to be had in executive session, because there are personnel matters that are appropriately there. There were salaries that were discussed and people, more to the point, who were discussed by name when it came to staffing in the housing department. That should have been in an executive session. There are things I have not been able to disclose because they belong in executive session. There is an assumption that we heard from Ms. Weiser's comments just now, that I want to add more personnel to the Safe Build contract. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I don't want to have a discussion about what I am trying to do because it involves personnel that work here at the city in a very sensitive way, and it belongs in executive session. So I'm delighted that we're finally going to talk about the Safe Build contract. And I hope sooner or later, we really have a meaningful discussion about allowing us to hire, giving us a salary for a position that's already on the books so we can post that position and get somebody in there. That's something that we should have been able to do 6 months ago. That person could have been posted and hired, and when it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to get that position worked out, yes, we rewrote the Admin 1 and Admin 2 positions. And yes, I ended up hiring a director. But the work of the housing department had to continue regardless. We couldn't just stop doing point of sale inspections and point of sale reports just because the city council hadn't had a hearing. We don't have that luxury. And nor should we have to do that. We're not going to stop doing rental registration inspections or the exterior maintenance program just because city council hasn't taken up and done the work. These things are all interconnected. And if you didn't know, it's because we didn't get a chance to talk about it. You have not afforded us ample opportunity in 6 months to talk about these issues. And don't tell me I could have come to you, because this is what the committee is for. And when you stack the committee with far more agenda items than you can ever hear in an hour, you need to have a longer meeting and get it done. Other committees do that. Maybe they don't meet quite as often, but when they do, they get through their agendas. We heard earlier today how the safety committee didn't get through its agenda. We heard earlier today, and you're hearing now again, how the building and housing committee doesn't get through its agenda. And if you got more work to do than you can do in an hour, then maybe trying to squeeze it in the hour before a council meeting isn't the way to do it. So I just want to be very clear for the benefit of the public, because I think you all already know this, regardless of what Ms. Weiser said. We haven't had the opportunity to discuss this in 6 months, except for 18 minutes of finger pointing at the last Building and Housing Committee meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so again, this is just discussion. Ms. Weiser?
Number one, anybody can look at our agendas and see what was on it before this was brought up in council and referred to the committee. That means we had old business to go through. The mayor knew what the old business was, and he knew where it was when it went into committee in October. He never called me. He never said, hey, how about we do 2 hours? He is here saying, we should talk about this in executive session. He didn't call for an executive session. Call for an executive session, we're happy to listen. But he did not do that. He didn't tell us he wanted an executive session. I can't read his mind. I'm not that powerful. But what I do know is this. There were open positions in the department that hadn't been filled, that we had actually advertised for, because I saw the advertisements on LinkedIn. So I knew we had positions that could be filled. And we finally filled them. This is not just, oh, we want to hold this up because for some reason we don't think that this can do it. This is a different thing. This is not housing. This is community development. And we asked very clearly at the last minute meeting for the administration to give us those 2 definitions. Haven't gotten them yet, and I doubt if we will get them, because we're not going to put them in writing. We're going to make them up as we go, or we're going to get really general things. We need to know whatever position we add adds to the department. This is a position that existed long before I came on council. And long before October, there was no rush to fill it. None. There was no salary band plopped down in front of council. There was no, I'm looking for this person. That position existed. He's right. But suddenly it became an emergency. Suddenly it became important. So it's interesting that it existed with no problem, just existed out there without being funded, and now suddenly needs to be funded. We took it up. We've asked for additional information before our next meeting, and I truly hope we get it. I know Councilman Cooney got part of the answer for us, and I appreciate that. Because if I had asked, I wouldn't have gotten it. And that's okay. I can't control what the mayor thinks of me, that's fine. Want to make a political statement on it? Good, fine, please do. You already told me, hey, that's a public thing. I can do what I want. You said that to me. And I remember quite clearly when you did, and it's okay. That's how you roll, that's fine. But I'm here for the residents in the community. I'm not here for you.
Vice Mayor.
Ms. Sacks had a question first. Okay, Mr. Cooney?
Yeah, unless there's any more discussion regarding the Safe Bill contract, I would suggest if we consider moving to agenda item I.
I agree. Any more discussion?
No.
Okay. Letter I, motion to approve special project grant in the city, that the city was awarded from Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District in the amount of $25,000. Ms. Brummer Fisher?
Good evening. We're on the home stretch here. The City of University Heights will conduct a composting pilot program enabling all residents to drop off compostable items at a centralized location for 6 months. This grant from the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District will enable us to do that. The pilot program will enable the city to assess residents' interest in participating in a drop-off composting program, determine the resources needed to support such a program, and enable the city to collect data on program benefits. So how it would work is that in early spring 2025, the city will educate residents about composting, promote the pilot program, and encourage them to sign up. And then beginning in May, the city will contract with Rust Belt Riders to provide biweekly pickup of compost from 5 bins located at Walter Stinson Community Park. At the end of the period, the city will evaluate the program to determine if there is sufficient interest and benefit to justify including such a program in the city's 2026 budget and going forward.
Thank you. So I just had a couple questions. What kind of benchmarks are you looking for participation for going forward?
Well, we last fall received information about how many residents were currently participating in the program of drop-off composting, and so we would have that as a benchmark to compare.
I'm saying though, but going forward, how many more additional people would you need to evaluate if it's a successful program that the city might invest more?
That's to be determined. Let's see, there's 78 households who are participating in the program, and it's 33 months of operation. So, we've got, 4,200 households, and so, it would be determined by the council as to what the number of residents or households participating in the program should be.
Okay, and the current 78, will they be receiving free composting then, going forward?
Free for everyone, yes.
Okay, so the ones that had delivered to their homes, though, they would have the option that they could bring it for free, otherwise they would continue to pay for their home pickup.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You asked the question I was going to ask with full disclosure. I do use the composting services over at Walter Stinson Park. The people during the trial period, they would be automatically converted under this trial program. There would be no action needed by the people, the 78 people enrolled.
That's correct. I mean, everybody would have to register through Rust Belt Riders, so Rust Belt Riders would be able to determine that these folks are already participating in the program. They live in University Heights. They would get the free 6 month.
Thank you, Ms. Sacks.
Thank you. This is great. I hope it's successful. So doing a little math, and I might need a little help from Mr. Kennedy, but if we pay, if it's $12 per month times 78 households, a year of that is $11,200 and some dollars. So this is a $25,000 grant, and it's for 6 months. So you'd want to like quadruple the number of people in order to spend it down. And that's what you're hoping. I mean, I would think in your grant proposal, you had to back up why, what $25,000 covers. So.
Right, $25,000 covers 6 months. Well, here, I'll give you the breakdown.
$4,100 divided by 12.
There are different components to the program aside from the fees to Rust Belt Riders. There's the promotion of the program. So there's a postcard mailing that would go to, actually all 4,810 households, because this is all the households in University Heights that would be eligible, so not just folks who live in a single family or a two-family home who participate in recycling. This would even be people who live in apartments would be eligible to participate in this program.
I'm sorry,
So
what did you say about apartments? I couldn't hear you.
that it would include those folks as well in this program. They would be eligible to participate. So we would design a postcard, and it would be mailed to every household. And so there's the cost for the design and production of the postcard. There's the cost of postage for the postcard. There is also a proposal for cart corral and signage that would go, that would promote the program, and people could even sign up on site using the QR code. And then the monthly fee for the 5 bins emptied twice a week by Rust Belt Riders is $3,680 per month. So that totals to $22,080 for the 6-month pilot.
Right, so you'd have to divide it by what it would be, $12 per month, and you'd get the number of people, right, that would be covered. Okay. Sounds like it's 300 people about. Okay, just to have an idea.
Thank you. Are there, Mayor?
Yeah, I would say that what Mrs. Sachs is saying is one way of analyzing it, that would not be wrong to consider it in those terms. It's not the only way to look at it, but it's certainly one way of looking at it. That we can look at what it costs through this grant at, the prevailing rate of residents who just sign up for this program currently, at the current rate. But the numbers that are reached for how we're doing this is really based upon Rust Belt Riders' servicing of the carts themselves, and we'll see how that use is. We also know from Beechwood that though they have a program that is universal where anybody can sign up and the city picks it up, that it's a fraction of people that are doing it. What we are looking for is to see if more people are willing to do this. It's still a drop-off program as opposed to having it be picked up. So it does require additional effort on behalf of our residents, even if we are providing it free of cost through this grant, to see if residents are willing to do this without having to pay extra for it. It's a big reach for some folks, and I kind of get it. We pay, for recycling and rubbish collection, and then to pay a premium to actually drive your organics somewhere. Some of us are willing to do that. I know Mrs. Sachs is, and Mr. King, and myself, and probably some others here. But not everybody's going to be willing to do that because, they're already paying for things. But if they're able to participate in the program as part of a grant or, paid for some other way, and they're not having to, sign up and put their credit card in and have it pinged every month, but they're willing to take their organics somewhere, well, that's a great thing that we want to be able to see and determine. So we do want to promote this. We, in the long view, it may be, someday, and some parts of the country do have this, but I'd love to see this here someday, that we have curbside or just home organic pickup for everybody, in addition to picking up our recycling and picking up our other rubbish. So, it's one of those things where you can't get there in just one giant jump. We got to see, what the appetite is with our residents and what they're, willing to do with some education and promotion to try this out at no risk to them for having to pay for it. And we'll see how much more composting we can do. Some folks, they compost at home, the things that you can easily compost at home. But the good thing about Rust Belt Riders, there's a whole lot of things that you can compost through industrial composting that you would never put in your home composting, like meat scraps and animal bones and certain containers that are compostable, but not in your home composting pile. Maybe there'll be some folks, and we can see how this works out, that Still, we'll do some composting at home, but now we'll take all the other things to Rust Belt Riders. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope we get to do it. And I'm really interested in seeing, how the community warms up to it. Thank you.
Ms. Sachs? One more quick comment, just, I think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity, but we'll see, by not having something at Purvis Park, which is what I brought up when Rust Belt Riders was here. Not everybody does their business going east, so that's all. I hope maybe in the future that will be on the radar. Thank you.
And I think it will be on the radar, but for this pilot, we had to.
I understand. I'm just putting it out there on the public record. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a need for executive session?
There's not.
Don't leave me.
Okay, building and housing.
Building and Housing will meet in 2 weeks before council meeting at 6 PM. We have obviously the Safe Build contract and the position on the agenda. Come, it will be interesting.
Thank you.
Maybe
Community
I'll bring
outreach?
popcorn.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This evening, we're testing our new Teams Room video conferencing system. I've seen as many as 8 people logged in. There are 3 people watching now. So I'll be looking to get some feedback on how that looks and sounds, most importantly. There will-
Somebody texted me the audio was great.
Oh, good.
That's great to hear.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting more feedback.
Just not this kind of feedback.
Yeah, not the feedback we had in the safety committee meeting.
Oh, Lord, it was terrible.
I think it may have been Chief Perko's radio is my best guess.
Oh, we'll blame
But right now, we have the single camera up there. There were some issues with the second camera in the system. It'll be located over there, most likely. That Starfish will be coming out again and installing that. That will allow, right now we have a zoomed out view of all of us, but when that second camera is in, it'll be able to do tracking of individual speakers and hopefully give, a better experience than this here. So I'm excited about this. Looking forward to hearing from Starfish again when that part comes in. I'll come out again with them and we'll get it going. But we're getting there. So thank you.
Thank you. Economic development.
Yes, as Ms. Drucker mentioned in her report, I just wanted to repeat that we will be having a meeting on March 20th from 6 to 8. This is for the zoning subcommittee. This will be a chance to get your comments in on the residential and commercial components of the zoning code first draft. I'll distribute, or I'll have the clerk distribute the draft before that meeting. We should probably distribute that very soon. Once we have all the comments over to ZoneCo, the consultant, they will prepare the second draft, in which we will be able to review and have our public hearings. So this will be the last step before that second draft is produced.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. Finance, there is a finance meeting in March. We'll be discussing year end, the audit process, how it's going so far, and I anticipate a meeting in April for first quarter as well. Recreation.
Thank you. Recreation Committee meeting tomorrow, 6 PM. The agenda is posted, including one of the items was revenue and expenses. I'm sure we'll probably touch upon the lifeguard pay and any, obviously the resources that may be needed for the upcoming pool season.
Thank you. Safety?
No report, Vice Mayor.
Service and utilities.
Thank you. There's a doodle poll that's out through the beginning of May. Everybody, please look at it. We need quorums for both service and utilities and building and housing. The sooner we get that, the sooner Councilwoman Weiser and I can put the agenda together, and hopefully we have enough information to finalize our discussions on trees, weeds, hedges, shrubbery, all those very important things that we've had some robust discussion in the past. So please respond to your doodle tonight. Thank you.
Thank
Otherwise,
you.
I'll pick more dates.
Thank you. And Community of the Whole, I did email Ms. Thomas last week to email the first week of April for Community of the Whole to discuss the parade ordinance. Are there any other reports of special committees?
Do you want to comment on the date of the next council meeting?
Yes. It is March 18th. It is Tuesday instead of Monday, March 17th. So the mayor requested that because it's St. Patrick's Day on
Why?
Monday.
Sludshow.
We'd probably get more done because you'd all be a little lit, except for us.
There's a reason why they call it the Fighting Irish, right?
I know full well.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Dash?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Ms. Weiser?
Aye. Aye, aye.
Thank you.